Hi friends, it's Tracy. Welcome back to Rural Refurb. Today, we're going to be getting creative with golf balls. I'll show you how to make 5 different Christmas decorations that suit any style. They're super simple projects, but the results are stunning. For these projects, you need used golf balls, and I have got over 3,000 of them. These were all collected during COVID lockdowns when we couldn't get on the golf courses to play, so we walked them for exercise and kept finding balls, and then it became quite addictive. I've picked out a selection of them. I mean, to be honest, I'm spoilt for choice. I could be doing these projects for years. I'm going to start with the first one with a very thin drill bit. Now, I'm just using that thin drill bit just to break that outer casing. So I don't want to go deep into the ball. It's really just doing a pilot hole, just getting through that casing. Now, I had these screws in the back of the garage, so I thought, well, I might as well use them. But they're hooks, so I thought, I could just nip that little head together, and then it's more of an eye. Instant tree bauble waiting for decoration. But before we get to the decoration stage, I'm going to prep all the balls. I've got the drill out, so I'm going to switch over the drill bit. I love these little battery drills. They're super for these projects. So I'm going to switch over my very thin drill bit for a much thicker one. And the size of the drill bit depends on the size of the hole you want to create. Now I'm going to use a sanding block, a damp cloth and gloves. And then I'm going to start to drill through the ball. The hardest part of this is actually getting through the outer casing. Once you break through, it's like a hot knife through butter. To get through the other side, I find the easiest way is just to take a firm grip of it in your hand, lift it off your work surface and drill till you puncture through the other side. Now, any little bits of rough plastic that might be popping up, just use the sanding block and it preps it for the finishing decoration. The damp cloth is to keep the drill bit clean, because you'll find as you go through each of the balls, all the innards fly out and stick to the drill bit. So just for safety really, and to keep that drill bit operating properly, I just after each ball give it a wipe down. Time to start decorating. Now, I love this gold Rust-Oleum metallic spray. It says gold, but I think it's more like a brass. They do a copper as well, which is a beautiful finish. And I often use this on my hydrangea heads for my autumnal decorating. Now, this is a breakaway from the usual for me. This is a Pantile red. It's a matte spray, and it's about as much red as you'll ever see me use. I'm going to pull out some old skewers and a bit of broken stone from the garden in order to weight those skewers so I can pop balls on, which makes the spraying much easier. I've just got to say, I thoroughly enjoyed doing these. It's highly addictive, and you're going to be seeing a lot of golf balls in my Christmas decorations, which starts full on Christmas decorating next episode. As I plan on doing more of these, I've picked up some of these eye screws. These were off Amazon, so I'll link those below, as I will with the paints and everything else that I use. The spray paint doesn't take long to dry, so once they are touch dry, I'm taking them off the skewers, putting them on. This is actually a lid off a big storage box, and I'm going to leave those overnight to harden. We wake up to a beautiful sunrise, and I've got my balls all nice and hard, and they're now in the kitchen, where I'm going to pull out my dark wax. I love this Annie Sloan dark wax. I'm just going to use an old small stencil brush, with some rubber gloves, and I'm going to work that dark wax into the balls because they've got all those wonderful little dimples on them, and it instantly just knocks back the brightness, which is not really me. I like much more of a vintage toned down look. Now, I appreciate everybody does Christmas their own way with their own colour schemes, and it's a bit of a statement of the obvious, but you can finish these in the way that suits your personal decor. I'm going to leave that wax to dry, and then I'm going to colour up some balls in a different way. So you may not want to use spray paint. You may live in a very small apartment and actually spraying is not a thing that you can do. So I'm going to use Rub and Buff. I love to use Rub and Buff, and my 3 old tubes are going to get used up before I crack open my new ones. I like to mix 3 different colours, putting more or less of different shades on, and that way you get that variation. We're going to finish some balls in a different way now. So I'm out in the garden and I'm looking for moss. We get lots of it growing around the gardens. We've got 3 acres here, so there's always a bit of moss somewhere. When I'm taking it for decoration, I tend to just take little bits of it from here and there, so it grows back really quickly. We're going to use the moss to make moss balls. So we're going to cover the golf ball with moss. It's as simple as that. And then you just use florist wire, wrapping it around and around, fixing the 2 tail ends together to make a secure ball. If you don't have moss growing in your garden, or you haven't got easy access to it, you could always use faux moss, or you could go to your local garden centre. They quite often sell it. If you have gathered it in, obviously always get the landowner's permission, and don't take great lumps of it from the same spot. Spread it out. If you're concerned about bugs, insects in your moss, you can leave it outside overnight. If it dries out, you can soak it in water. Now the balls are all prepped, we're going to start creating our decorations. First up is a rummage through my odds and sods ribbon box. I'm also going to have a look at all my leftover bits of twine and string. I always want to use what I've already got wherever possible. So that's the first thing I always do, is try and see if I can use things that are in my home, in my garage. I'm just going to use a little bit of jute here, a bit of string to create the hangers for these baubles, and then we can decorate with them. I'm loving the finish on these. They look like hammered metal to me. Golf ball clusters up next, but how to thread string through. Well, I came across these wool needles. I never knew such a thing existed. And the eye is so bendy and flexible, you could put really thick material through it. And then it just makes it so much easier to string through the balls. I've also pulled out a tray of beads that I've got. I've actually been making bracelets. I was in Spain, a little bazaar, found lots of beads and some elastic, all for €5, and because I couldn't find bracelets that I really wanted, I just made them. Also beads, you know, beads when we used to lay them around for decorating. I don't do that anymore, so they're just sat in a drawer. So I thought, do you know what, I'm going to snip off the ends and I'm going to coordinate them with these. To make the cluster, I'm going to start with one very long piece of string that I'm actually going to attach beads to each end. Now, this is the only time I'm going to do this, and the reason I'm doing it is because I want to create a strong hanging loop. All the other ones that I do will be on separate lengths, so it'll just be one length of string with the decoration at the bottom. and a very tight knot. Once I've worked out my length and exactly how big I want my hanging loop to be, I just snip off the end, and I found with the golf balls, with the hole that I've created, I needed to knot about 3 times on this string to make sure that the golf ball didn't slip off. Obviously, how many times you knot will depend upon the thickness that you're using, because this, you could use ribbon with this, you could use all sorts of material. I then cut separate lengths of string, and on each one I added a bead, a golf ball and a good strong knot. When I'd made all the strands, it was time to start putting it together. So I took my very long loop with the balls at each end, worked out how big I wanted my loop, my hanging to be, and then just started positioning the balls up a bit, down a bit, until I got them all in the shape that I wanted them to be. I then found my shortest strand, pulling the loop to one side because we don't want to cut the loop. And I trimmed off all the other tails to that length, and then tied it all together with a great big knot, making sure everything was nice and tight and secure. Ribbon choice next. Now you could go with a nice green, a rustic or a velvet, but I'm very much a neutral girl. A rustic neutral is my choice. Copper tree baubles next. Now, I think these baubles are not just suitable for Christmas. I think they also work with fall, autumnal decoration and with winter. So here I'm going to add them to my centerpiece that I did for my fall table. Next up is a golf ball garland. Now I'm going to use the twine again. I'm keeping that continuity with the theme, and I'm measuring out about 8 feet, and at one end I'm going to tie a nice big loop, which is going to be my hanging loop, and then I'm going to use that fabulous wool needle, which is my new favorite thing, and start threading on balls, which I'm going to mix with the beads. What I'm going to do is, rather than just have one long section, I'm going to do random designs going through. So as I do a small section, I'm then going to put a bead on to finish that, and then do a really good secure knot, then leave a gap, and then do another, maybe 2 balls, 1 ball, make it very relaxed and ad hoc. When I get to the end of the garland, I'll do my final knot and then add another loop for hanging. Bowl fillers and moss balls. Next, we're going to do some stylish table decorations using all the vibes that I love, which is very natural, very rustic. Obviously, again, you can bring in your own personality here. I'm using fresh greenery, but you could use faux. The beauty with these projects is you can just bring in your own personality and create something that is very unique to you and your decor. And as we always say on this channel, if it makes you smile, then it's right for you.